And good evening to you all out there. How are you doing? It's a question I'm reluctant to ask because for a lot of people, there's no good answer to that. This has been a deeply unsettling week of headlines in America. Here's just a sample. Trump's threat to invoke Insurrection Act escalates showdown with Democratic cities. Trump calls for jailing of Chicago mayor and Illinois governor. New York Attorney General Letitia James indicted after Trump's pressure campaign. National Guard troops seen on Memphis streets as Trump faces legal challenges. What you have to remember is that if you're not a part of the red hat wearing MAGA movement, Donald Trump and the sycophants debasing themselves by doing his bidding, they want you to feel fear in the pit of your stomach. They want you to see Trump going after his political enemies like former FBI Director James Comey and the current New York State Attorney General Letitia James. They want you to see him sending National Guard troops into American cities. They want you to see raids by ICE agents, a government shutdown, even childish trolling behavior like Donald Trump 2028 hats appearing on the Resolute desk in the Oval Office during a meeting that Donald Trump had with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. They want you to see all of this and feel powerless. And on the retribution campaign, Trump is apparently not done. MSNBC's Ken Dilanian and Carol Leonnig broke more news today. The acting U.S. attorney in Maryland is moving forward quickly to seek criminal charges against this man, President Donald Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, according to two people familiar with the case. This is the kind of behavior from an administration that was once unthinkable. But under this president, it's an everyday occurrence. And that, too, is part of the strategy. Bury you in the chaos. We've seen this administration using official government social media accounts, take their racist, callow, mean-spirited attacks against Democrats, to a new level. The New York Times lays this out in a new report. Quote, those anti-Democratic Party postings and others on different government websites have been sharply criticized as potential violations of the Hatch Act, which prohibits the federal workforce from engaging in political activity on the job. Official social media feeds are manned by federal employees and thus are paid for by taxpayers. In a statement, Abigail Jackson, a White House spokeswoman, says that the success of the White House's social media pages speak for itself. And then there's the ethos of this White House. It's okay to break norms, potentially to even break laws, if they think that the ends justify the means. Create chaos. Sow dissent. Trump 2.0 is all about divide and conquer. It's a strategy that's easy to rely on if you don't actually care about the truth. Take the president's roundtable on Antifa earlier this week. Speaking about Portland, Oregon, Trump said the city is on fire, bombed out. Quote, you see fights, it's just violence. It's just so crazy, end quote. Yeah, it's crazy because it's completely made up. Are there protests against ICE in Portland? Sure. It's a city with a long, long history of protest. People in Portland are actually very proud of that history. Is the city on fire and filled with violence? Of course not. During that same meeting, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem compared Antifa, which isn't a thing. It has no address. It has no leaders. It has no postbox. It is a loose and leaderless affiliation that is shorthand for anti-fascist. Kristi Noem compared it with the likes of ISIS, Hezbollah, and Hamas, all of which have actually been governing entities with control over geographic areas. Doesn't seem to matter to them that none of this Antifa nonsense is true. It doesn't matter because the lies work so much better when you want to send more National Guard troops into more American cities, even when officials in those cities say they neither want nor need those troops. Doesn't even matter that two Republican governors in both Oklahoma and Vermont are criticizing Trump, calling out these deployments as a clear-cut overreach by the federal government. So why is Trump doing all of this? It's not coming from a place of political strength. Politically strong leaders do not have to dominate and demand fealty or use the military to try and coerce their own citizens. These are the actions of a politically weak and increasingly unpopular president. A Donald Trump who's broken the economy with an asinine and disastrous tariff policy, including a new threat today of a 100% tariff on China. And Trump's losing the messaging battle on the shutdown, specifically the Obamacare subsidies that he and many Republicans are trying to torch in the process. Just listen to, we don't normally quote her on this show, but just listen to what Marjorie Taylor Greene told CNN about that.
We track all the calls that come into my office. About 60% of the calls coming in right now are calls of support and saying, yes, health insurance is a crisis. They're telling us stories about how they're already paying $2,000 a month with $10,000 deductibles. I'm getting phone calls from people that are saying if the ACA tax credits expire, they aren't going to be able to have health insurance. They're going to have to drop it. But I'm hearing from people on both sides, people already on the ACA and people that are already getting crushed by high health insurance premiums.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. You're not watching a politically strong Donald Trump. You're seeing a Donald Trump who cannot lie his way out of the crisis that he's created for himself on the economy and health care. A Donald Trump who cannot make the scandal over the Jeffrey Epstein files disappear. A Donald Trump who must also contend with the scandal involving $50,000 that FBI agents put into a paper bag and gave to Trump's so-called border czar, Tom Homan. The story first reported by MSNBC. When faced with the reality of the Epstein and Homan scandals during a Senate Judiciary hearing this week, Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi could only attack Democrats or sit in silence.
Is there a tape that has audio and video of the transfer of the $50,000?
You would have to talk to Director Patel about that.
No, I'm talking to you.
I don't know the answer, Senator.
Yeah, you do know the answer to that.
Don't call me a liar.
I didn't call you a liar. Why don't you know whether there was a tape and video?
Senator, I believe that was resolved prior to my confirmation as Attorney General.
Do you think that it is of public interest for the people to know what happened to the $50,000 that the FBI turned over to Homan?
Did you hear what I just said? That was resolved prior to my confirmation as Attorney General. That's why I said I would not know.
It's not resolved. There's $50,000. Homan has it, or somebody has it. Do you have no interest in knowing where it is?
You're not going to sit here and slander Tom Homan.
There's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women. Do you know if the FBI found those photographs in their search of Jeffrey Epstein's safe or premises or otherwise? Have you seen any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump left and right.
The question is, did the FBI find those photographs that have been discussed publicly by a witness who claimed Jeffrey Epstein showed them to him? You don't know anything about that. Okay.
In Pam Bondi's contemptuous, norm-shattering appearance before those senators, you didn't see a Trump administration responding to legitimate questions from senators from a political position, a position of political strength. Fighting with senators, going after rivals with indictments, vindictive ICE raids, flooding city streets with National Guard troops, all of this us versus them. You're seeing a president to try and find anything and everything he can use to distract and deflect and divert attention from his mounting failures. Donald Trump is throwing the authoritarian spaghetti at the wall to see what will stick. He wants you to see these things. And if you're not a supporter of his, he wants you to feel fear and feel dread. He wants you to feel like he is all-powerful and unstoppable and his success is inevitable. But it's a strategy that only works if we allow perception to become reality. You have to remember that what you're seeing is Donald Trump acting from a place of deep weakness, from a place of his own fear, a fear of your freedom to vote against him and his candidates of choice, a fear of your freedom to dissent and demonstrate against him, a fear of your freedom to organize against his self-centered political policies. That's what leaders like Trump fear. In an essay from February of last year titled "Beware the Weak Man," Professor Timothy Snyder, a frequent guest of this program and an expert on tyranny and authoritarianism, wrote, quote, "When we obey in advance, we invite the weak man to take power over our souls, which then means power over our politics," end quote. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had a similar message earlier this week for her supporters during a live stream on Instagram.
Laugh at them. Make them small. These people do this in order to make themselves feel powerful. Because deep, deep, deep down inside, they feel and know how small they are. And in order for a small person to feel big, they have to crush someone else. And like that is what their whole political identity is all about. It is about this forced supremacy that is based on nothing because they feel and know how small they actually are.